Hey guys, and welcome back to another Spore creation video, and for today I'll be making Cuphead, Mugman, and the Devil. Three very unusual characters that you probably wouldn't normally think to make in Spore, but I'm going to try my best, as cartoonish 2D designs were quite a challenge. However, I still didn't anticipate quite how challenging it would be, especially for Mugman and Cuphead. So, to start these off then, beginning with Cuphead, I wanted to start with the body, since the body is obviously a very defining feature due to the overall proportions, and I abused the crap out of Pandora's toolbox. Now what you'll notice is that for a lot of the parts throughout this, I'm using the green spheres and the green parts, and these are to inherit the colour schemes from the coat of the creatures, and this becomes very important later on because I can use that for both Cuphead and Mugman, and use the same creation for both. When it came to the legs, I relied on the Unshackled mod by Sai to add a foot node and to kind of trick the game into treating all the different spheres and cylinders as an actual leg part. And by doing that, it allows me to really define the shapes and the colours in very unusual ways, very distinct cartoonish ways that Spore doesn't normally support, and it once again tricked them into thinking it's feet. When it came to the arms, however, because the arms are the same colour as the torso is obviously going to be the base colour of the entire creation, I just used regular limbs for that. Now, it probably made them a bit too thick as a result, but honestly I kind of prefer it. It means that it at least animates quite cleanly, as opposed to the feet and hips, which, as you'll see later on, looks like he's constantly shaking his hips about. It's a little bit funny, but if you've seen the cartoon or the show, I think it actually fits quite nicely, so the unintentionally bad animation was actually kind of good at the end. But when it came to the arms and gloves, I decided to keep in a locked pose because I just thought it would kind of suit the character better, and I had a feeling that with this being so cartoonish as it is, it'd probably be for the best just to try and make like a bit of a static creature instead of, you know, really aiming for great animation at the expense of certain areas. I thought, yeah, this one's clearly cartoonish, we're just going to stick with it. Now when it came to the head is both simple and complicated at the same time, because of course it's a simple cup head, right? But there actually isn't any cup shapes in Spore, there aren't any half cylinders. So for that I used a drone parts mod, and thankfully I was able to colour the part into a pure white, which is perfect. And to try and get the large eyes, especially for Cuphead, as his eyes are big semicircles that kind of clip through the mug, for that I stacked on some ring parts as a template or reference and manually kind of drew his eyes using nail downs. It works out quite nicely in the end, but it's kind of funny, and it goes to show just, you know, the extra efforts you have to put in just to make like a simple shape. Then when it came to the mouth, I actually used a donut part or a ring part, and while it does cause the mouth to kind of have extra volume and pop out the face a little bit more, it makes for a really nice shape, and I kind of just wanted to shape more than anything else. It's a bit of a funny thing about trying to make 2D creatures or 2D designs in Spore, is that I have to retranslate it all into 3D. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I actually kind of prefer it in this case. While his face does have more volume than it normally would have, you'd think it'd be like a flat drawing in a mug, I actually kind of like it in a way. And then when it came to Mugman, it was simply a case of just redoing the eyes, redoing the nose, changing the mouth to the opposite direction so that way it's not, you know, quite copy pasta. And otherwise, remember those green spheres I was using from Pandora's toolbox earlier? I can thankfully just simply change the colour from red, as it was colouring for Cuphead, into blue for Mugman, and every single green piece you saw during the creation process then translates into blue, and it just made a really easy process. I got two creations in one, but thankfully we are not done there. It is time to move on to the Devil. So for the Devil, I had a really unusual technique in mind. You see, while his entire body, his arms, his legs, his head, etc. are all a very dark grey or black, his hands and feet are a light grey. Now, normally what I'd do in that scenario is I'd actually make the hands and feet from scratch with a different colour, and therefore the base colour be the thing for everything else. But this time I went the complete opposite. I made this creation backwards in terms of coloration, where I made the base colour a light grey for the hands and feet, thanks to replicants where I actually can afford to make them a lighter grey. And otherwise I then covered the arms and legs in various integrated integument fur parts, and used some of the vanilla colour palettes to try and recolour the limbs into a dark grey, and then a texture pattern by Skincraft to change the colour of the base body. It seems a little bit convoluted, but it's a little extra effort that I feel like really comes in handy. And then as for the head itself, now thankfully the head itself is just simply a sphere, you know, just a circle. It doesn't really get much harder than that. And because I'm already using all these different colours and textures for the rest of the body, I was able to once again use the green spheres and the green parts from Pandora's toolbox to inherit that darker grey from the bodies and just apply that to the head. So the head, again, was like kind of easy but kind of not. The mouth and eyebrows, once again I use ring parts. Again, just like with Cuphead and Mugman, it probably gives it a little bit too much extra volume, but again, I actually kind of like it. I feel like it just makes it a little bit more three-dimensional. And it's really fun working with such a expressive face. I mean, the devil's got such a, well, very 2D face. I've never really had the opportunity to do this before in Spore, so it was actually a lot of fun to try and translate. Not to mention something with such bright, vivid colors. And then when it came to the ears and the trident, all of that was done using Pandora's Toolbox once again. Basically, for these three creations, I just abused the crap out of Pandora's Toolbox. It really came in handy. It is fantastic for really sharp, toonish creatures. Replicant as well is a big help as well. That way I can use organic parts, but give them the same, you know, cartoonish colors instead of the usual weird pink fade it normally has in vanilla. And overall, these were a ton of fun. They were a huge breath of fresh air. They were utterly different to what I'd normally do. And it's really cool to see just how, you know, such incredibly cartoonish characters would look in a game like Spore. I'm quite pleased with it, and I feel like the devil itself also animates quite nicely as well, considering Cuphead and Mugman animate adequately, I would say. Though I'm not sure that creature I'd like to encounter the creature stage. But otherwise, for the most part, I'm happy, and hopefully this technique gives you some inspiration for your own creations. So, as always, thank you all so much for watching, and let me know if you'd like to see anything more from the Cuphead universe. And otherwise, I will see you all again next time. Cheers.